Welcome back to Newsmaker Live with me, Kendall Burton. My guest is Mr. Christopher Alexander. I wish my viewers could hear the introduction I've been getting behind the scenes. But before the break, we were talking about that sunken tug in the Castries Harbour. You talk about the efforts that you put to contain the oil spill that occurred subsequent to the sinking. But it's been there for a while. What has happened?
In terms of moving forward, Kendall, we are almost at the end of discussions with the owner, and the issue that kept the owner from actually commencing the operation was in terms of acquiring lift bags. Because of the tonnage of the vessel in question, we would require lift bags, which is basically like a commercial type size of balloon. So it would be, you could place it under the water, it would pump air into those commercial balloons, and it would actually bring the vessel to the surface.
Right.
But those were not able to get those airbags in St. Lucia or in the region, as a matter of fact. The closest venue would have been Trinidad. So we were in discussions with the owner and reiterating the importance of the urgency of having that tug removed from the Castries Harbour, but knowing in terms of, for our own checks as well, that the owner needed to acquire lift bags to actually, either technical expertise to actually have that vessel removed or refloated in the Castries Harbour. So we have finally, we're expecting within the ending of February that the operation will commence for the removal, for the refloating and the removal of the tug in its present location. So at least by March, the tug, if everything goes according to plan, the tug should not be in its location. And we had discussions, we gave the owner sufficient time, and we think now is the time that we can say we have reached the conclusion to commence the
conclusion to commence. Yeah, but
the refloating of the vessel.
This is 5 months on, 4 or 5 months on. It begs the question, how prepared are we for a major disaster? What if a vessel significantly larger were to run aground or to collide or and find itself in some kind of collision or accident in the Castries Harbour? How prepared is LASPA to deal with an eventuality like that?
Well, Kendall, any country can be overwhelmed depending on the extent of the incident. You have, for example, if you want to go far, we had the Concordia, and it took years, and with all the resources of the Europeans, the Italians, to have the Concordia removed, and other boats as well. So we're saying that depending on the extent, a country can be overwhelmed. And what we would do, we would have to bring in regional or international resources to assist us in terms of to face that challenge. You can not even, for example, the American with the Horizon explosion, they had to bring in outside help as well. So we're saying that a country can be overwhelmed, but however, we continuously have exercises through NEMO. It may be small scale in nature. However, we can co-opt other regional experts and international experts. So if, God forbid, we had such an incident, again, it's being an assumption, we would bring in the other experts from the region to come and assist St. Lucia in that endeavor. But there are ongoing exercises of a small scale which can be expanded to bring in our international counterparts as well.
I would hate to think that this incident hasn't taught us any lessons. You talk about the fact that we don't have these commercial balloons available anywhere in the region. Has that prompted SLASPA perhaps to acquire some, so that in the eventuality there is a repeat, God forbid, we are better prepared this time around?
Well, in terms of the acquisition of those, it's not often that you'd get a vessel sinking in the harbor. So it would be...
Yeah, but it happened.
Yes, but it would be a commercial endeavor. So we're hoping that the investors out there or the companies out there can invest, and the persons we are in discussions with, he's thinking of in terms of actually acquiring those airbags, so in eventuality of a boat sinking there, he can utilize those airbags as a commercial
and you mentioned the fact there's none in the region, so there's
exactly. So that's been imported from Miami,
right.
And then that person is speaking in terms of he acquiring those airlift bags and have them in St. Lucia that he can utilize in case of an unfortunate sinking of a tug again. But SLASPA is in the final stages of commencing the operation of having the boat refloated.
Beyond that, let's talk about the need for legislation. We spoke about some of the existing regulations and legislation, the 14 additional shipping regulations. We talk about pollution. What is being done in terms of creating pollution regulation for St. Lucia, so that in the event that a major incident occurs, that we have some sort of legislation to fall back on?
Okay, great. Well, in terms of pollution, Sheldon, I'm also the chairman of the National Oil Spills Committee, and the Act also speaks to, or part of my mandate is in terms of pollution control from ships. However, we have a draft marine pollution bill that's before the relevant policymakers or the relevant ministry, and again, which they have to review before it is signed by, it goes through Parliament to become national law. However, as we speak right now, there's no marine pollution bill in St. Lucia, but part of that bill would encompass garbage pollution from ships. You would have sewage pollution from ships as well, and also air pollution from ships. So we're hoping that in the event that we have an unfortunate discharge of pollution from ships, that marine pollution bill would give the country sufficient coverage for us to levy penalties or for us to protect the resources or the environment of St. Lucia.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe that we don't have pollution legislation when we have so many groups like the National Trust and the Department of Sustainable Development, and we have all these organizations who ought to be, agitating, for that sort of regulation to protect the environment. But let's move on to the Insignia incident. We're talking about unfortunate incidents. We had one that perhaps I think many St. Lucians anticipated, perhaps SLASPA didn't even anticipate. How did SLASPA respond to that situation? In hindsight, what would you have done differently?
Well, but in terms of the response, and it's not often a country a small country or island get international applause as to the response for an incident of that magnitude.
Right.
I can recall when the Carnival caught on fire off Mexico, and that was, in terms of the response, it was left wanting by the international community. And with SLASPA and St. Lucia in general, I think the consensus is that St. Lucia, the various responding agencies did extremely well, including the fire service, the doctors, the ports police, maritime, and other agencies, which please forgive me if I did not call their names. But I think all in all, even the owners of the Insignia, they came down to St. Lucia. The president of that company came down to St. Lucia and gave his praises to the agencies of St. Lucia. So not the SLASPA, but when all the entities came together, even the rep in St. Lucia, Mr. Bobray, he too gave praises for the national response of the Insignia. So I think in terms of St. Lucia response, I think it was commendable. There are a few areas, again, that we need to revisit in terms of ensuring that those boats that they supply the fire service with the fire plan on board those boats. So each of those large vessels, they have a fire plan on board.
Right.
So we're saying that if the fire service have to respond to a fire on board those boats, they have to have an idea as to the structure, okay, of or the plan of that vessel. So we're going forward. We've told those cruise ships to furnish the state with a copy of those plans to give to the fire service, so they'll have an idea. They get okuma as to the plans of those boats. So that's one of the lessons we learned after the Insignia fire. But I think the response was commendable by all agencies.
Okay, we'll take a break. When we come back, I want to learn some of the other lessons that were imparted as a result of the Insignia incident. This is Newsmaker Live. I'm Kendall Burton. My guest, Mr. Christopher Alexander. I almost rebaptized you there. But we'll be right back.